Okay, I'm going to get going here for phase two. The question that Pastor Javid asked, as I recall it, was what happens when someone's, working in my department or whatever, and goes and talks to the person above me. He asked, how does that make me feel? And the way he posed the question made me go a certain way with it. But I realized earlier when we had some of these org charts in the course, I should have just said a couple things that maybe I'd missed or I don't remember saying. And maybe it's as simple as this. When someone in my department goes above me to my boss and says, I'm having problems with Pastor Taggart, that very shortly after that, excuse me, in the process, my boss is going to get me and that person together in one room, because that's really the only place you had to go with it. It's, in a sense, it's like marriage counseling. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, best way to say it, but it really is. You got people that are not, working well together. So you sit them down, you hear the issues, and you work it out as best you can. And as I said, I did say today that maybe sometimes one person has to realize that maybe this is just not a good working relationship, and we should make a change here. And we've done that from time to time at Greater Grace. Sometimes people have to leave working for us, and in some cases, good people, we've found different departments they can work in because it was just a better relationship, for them. But that's really, I just got to say that, I don't have a whole lot to talk to someone about, and someone in Chad's department, because I really want to hear it from Chad. But again, unfortunately, you do get these situations where you just have the wrong manager, the wrong department head, and I really do need to be hearing to get the picture, because this individual just doesn't have the gift or the mind to really know what's going on in his department. He's just viewing it in a way that is not so helpful to the church right now. So this is just life, and it happens, So maybe that's all I'll say about that. And any more questions before we move on to a kind of a pretty different topic here? Okay, so the next thing we're going to go to is numerous times we've talked about policies. You could say procedures, but I'm really going to talk about policies in this course. And I've mentioned policy a number of times. Most of what I'm about to say, you could sort of glean from what we've already said and the way we want to be running our organizations in general. But I just think it's good to take a moment to really describe to you just what I believe the elements of a good policy are and the reasons for those elements being there. And we always want to preface it by saying that, I just was thinking of this verse in the Bible, is that man is not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath is made for man. We know that verse. And I would kind of say the same thing about policies is, we are not here to serve policies. Policies are here to serve us. And in that sense, when a policy stops making sense, or is no longer serving us, we can change that policy. And another way of saying it, if this policy is not working, why is that? And I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the people who are having trouble with it, because I believe that I've got smart, intelligent, highly motivated, and committed people working for me. They didn't come to work today to get out of something. They came to work to be effective, and this policy is getting in their way. It's not serving them well, So they come to me and say, "Okay, no problem. Let's, but in the heat of the battle, we don't talk about it because that's a lousy time to talk about this stuff. But we put it on the list for next Thursday's meeting, and we can review this thing, and then we talk about it. And sometimes at the end of that conversation, you see, it really is the only policy we can have in this situation. You're going to have to adjust. And generally, if all the facts are on the table, everyone's going to be in agreement and at least accept it, even though they don't like it, but they start to accept it over time. But here we go with the elements of a good policy. And again, I want you to know these things, but If it's just memorizing them and spitting them back on a test, I'm not so impressed with that, but that's part of it. So the first thing is, okay, I'm not going to have you guess on these, but the first thing about a policy is it is written, okay? And why do we write things? Because people develop amnesia amazingly, okay? People you love, people who are good people you work with every day, people forget. They forget for a number of different reasons, because it's uncomfortable, because they got a lot on their mind. The stuff that flies across my desk in the course of a week, I don't mean to make, I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk about myself so much, but just a lot of stuff comes across my desk. I just cannot remember what we said. That's why I follow up with stuff by email. Oh, gee, email, do I have to email? If someone doesn't email somebody, I will never remember what we talked about today. And 3 months down the road, we're going to be having the same conversation and the same frustrations because we forgot what we said. So number one, it's written. Now, that one's kind of obvious. But number two is like the key, and it's the one that we fall down on. Now get this, that the policy works as written. Okay? And as you probably know, there are policies left and right that we don't really do what it says. And you know, right now we're involved in a rewrite of the youth worker policy. How many people here are approved youth workers for Greater Grace World Outreach? Okay, a lot of people are, you know, so half a dozen of us. So that means you've all read our so-called official policy on youth work, right? And you know, we've read and reread that thing, and I think this is really motivated maybe by Pete Westera. But the policy that you read and signed off on and agreed to, in my opinion, there's certain parts of that policy that are just unworkable, you know, and you signed it because you were team players and thought you were supposed to, but you could have come back and said, you're kidding me, like, we're going to do this, you know, is anybody really doing this? And we've had enough of those conversations to know that policy is not, there's also just some wording in there that I don't want in that policy. Like, it's the purpose of the policy is to protect children, you know what I'm saying? But it talks about to keep the church from getting, you know, the church could get sued. Who cares about the church getting sued? The purpose of that is to keep children safe. If we're keeping children safe, we don't have to worry about that other stuff. So we're doing a big rewrite of that because that policy, I'm just illustrating, that policy did not work as it was written. So we've got to come up with a policy that we can really do. Yeah, we hope it makes our insurance company happy, like it kind of has to. Otherwise, you know, we might not have coverage, which is important to us, but we take that as a barometer, as a help to us of what should be in the policy. And we're talking about this thing right now. We're having these conversations in my office, and those conversations will be going up the ladder also. And I'll just spend a minute on it, just again, just to illustrate it, but also let you know that you and your churches will have to go through this thought process when you're writing your own policies for your churches. It's not easy. We struggle with it, but there's, you know, a thing that, you know, we talk about in youth work, and it's that you never want to be alone with a child, right? And, you know, what is generally recommended when we think about it, you always want to have two workers. I'm never going to be alone with a child. I'm always going to have another worker with me. Okay? So I can put that in, does that make sense to everybody, to keep children safe? Okay, so I write that into my policy. And the reason I haven't done it in the rewrite is, oh, wait a minute, what did I just do at Greater Grace Christian Academy? You know what, I got to hire 13 more people, so a teacher, because we can never have a teacher alone in a classroom with students if we write the policy that way. So we're writing a policy that does not work. So we either got to make an exception for Greater Grace Christian Academy, or we got to come up with some other way of wording it that covers it. But why would we impose that policy? Yeah, let's have a round of applause for Mr. Castro, back from God knows where. Good to have you. You want to get, having a good time so far tonight. But so what I think we're going to go with is instead of a two-worker policy, I think the way it's going to go is a three-person policy. Yeah, I'm never going to be alone with a kid. It's either me and 2 kids or 2 of us and 1 kid. And I got to think about that. I don't know if that really works. It's not my decision alone, but again, this is what we are struggling with right now. I don't want to, like, I could take 2 17-year-old 11th graders at Greater Grace Christian Academy, 2 boys, and if I have a 2-worker policy, it means that Pete Westera cannot take them out to lunch, you know? And I just don't know if that even makes sense. Is that reasonable? Like, where, yes, ma'am? Were you praising God, asking a question? Okay. All right, send that on back, would you?
I was just thinking that teenagers not always like rules, and if
I missed that word. They're not always
rules.
Someone tell me.
Rules.
Rules.
Yes.
Teenagers do not like rules.
Yes. And I am just thinking that if I have 1 teacher and 2 teenagers who doesn't like a situation, like, you know,
right,
they are 2 against 1.
Right.
What is like?
So that's an argument for a 2-worker policy, right?
It's an argument
to have 2 workers.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a good argument.
Yes.
And right now, whether or not we end up doing that, you're a success in this course because you are thinking. You are thinking about policies. What's the ramifications? What are the pros and cons of it? And will it work? This is great. This is what he wants you doing. Actually, I'm going to keep going here on.
No, I just work in the wherever, and and if I got 2 teens who doesn't like me, I can get in trouble.
Right.
And they can accuse me, and they can get away with it.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why I'm just thinking that it's for my good if I have someone else with me.
Oh, yeah, it's for your protection also. Yeah, not just for their protection, but for your protection. And we'll get into this later in the course, but it's like 1 accusation, and my ministry's over. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if it's true or not. So we keep ourselves in a place where we cannot be accused. So anyway, we got the creative juices going here. That's all, I'm not going to sort this out right now, but this works as written is very, very important, and we are doing a major rewrite of a very big and very important policy for this very reason right now. We're working with security. In my favorite department is security. Same thing. We're trying to get what you guys do, procedures written down. How do we handle these situations? Because it's unfortunately with that department, it can be a matter of life and death. You know, and doesn't mean we can guarantee bad things won't happen, but if they do, let's at least do it the right way. So, yes, sir.
Say the teenager, if one of them is 18, does that change the dynamic? Because they're not minors technically by law. Yeah,
it does. And again, I don't want to talk too much about that policy, but again, how does that change it? I think what you're really working with, it's like a power relationship. I'm 25 years old. I'm with some kid who's 15. I have a measure of respect there, you know what I'm saying? And the law understands that I can influence that child by virtue of just the power that I have in that relationship. And every year older that person gets, there's less and less reason why that would exist, you know what I'm saying? So that's why some of that goes away, and especially with an adult. Adults can do what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? But a child's under my can an 18-year-old be under my supervision? Not in the sense of youth ministry, no. He's there as a free will agent. He can sign contracts, he can make his own decisions, he can come and go. I can't control that person. But someone who's 17 years old and 11 months has been placed in my care by the parent. So I'm really at that point in time, not legally the parent, but I'm functioning with a lot of the powers that parent has entrusted that child to me with. Why this is so important, So we'll get off that subject. We'll probably get back to it later in the course. We're just mapping this thing out, but we're going to get into liability. But this works as written. That's the big thing I'm trying to say right now. If you read this policy, do we really do that? Or don't we do that? Or do we do something else? That is very, very important. Okay? Now, the third thing, which I've mentioned, but we just want to add this to our list here, is it can be changed. Okay? No policy is forever. There's, you know, circumstances are changing, the people are changing, what you're dealing with is changing. You know, 20 years ago, we didn't need policies for cell phones, right? Because there weren't any, or there were very few of them. Now we need them, you know. So that's, and then the other thing, let me just get this. Knowing that policies can be changed, all right, and communicating that to your staff in the correct way, that like lifts burdens off of people. You can't change it on the fly, you know what I'm saying? You can't change it because you feel like it this week. That's not what we're talking about. But it's like these policies are to help us. These are for you. And that's why they're there. And if they are not working, again, you have every right responsibility to come to us and discuss how this thing can go better. Okay, so that's an important, you know, it keeps the policies from getting bad, but it also helps your people to live in freedom and not in, you know, I don't want to use the word bondage, but you know what I'm talking about, not in constraint, unnecessary constraint. So number 4, taught, all right? And, you know, spiritually, we could relate this to Pastor Shallow. Let's learn it all over again. But every department has policies, some more than others. You know, my department has policies. They need to be periodically pulled out of the, you know, cabinet, whatever it is, put in front of people. Are we still doing this? Okay, remember, we're doing we're doing this, and this. This is how we agreed we would do it. Are we really doing it? And hopefully people have the freedom to say, no, but okay, thanks for reminding me, or no, we're not doing that, that's dumb, it should be changed. But it's on me to be teaching. You don't just teach it once and assume people remember, because they do not. Okay, people, you know, I don't remember, you don't remember. That's why we got to go over these things. Remember how we do this, you know. How is it that we do a deposit, you know, in the finance office? You know, how is it that we handle, you know, this bag that's going to go to the bank? You know, how does that get recorded? And you remember that thing tell you about the recording the deposits from Fellowship Hall? Remember that? And from the cafe. You know, that just took a lot of work. We thought we had it, and it still wasn't the way it was supposed to. Like 2 or 3 meetings over the course of 6 months, and then we finally got it right, because what we had said the first few times, either we forgot it or it wasn't working the way it was supposed to work. So yeah, it was just a matter of, you know, it just had to do with recording things so they would come out a certain way. And no, you can't write 1 for the month of January, you got to write 01 for the month of January, otherwise it doesn't work. So stuff as small as that. So is it taught? And it's really, I would say you as the, you know, department head, as the leader, you know, people are not going to come to you most likely and say, oh, please teach us some more policies today. There's a burden of leadership on you that you grab onto, and you go for it, you know, and you keep the team up to speed, because it's part of the environment. Now you might have team members that are interested in that. Maybe you don't have the gift of administration, so you got to find the person on your team who has it and can help you with these things. Oh, I forgot about that. Hey, you know, so and so. I want you to come up with a schedule over the next 12 months of stuff we've got to cover, and you remind me. You'll hear Pastor Schaller saying things like this. Yeah, I want to do that. You got to put that in front of me. You know, remind me of that, because I want to be doing that, but I will not remember because I'm thinking about the Bible. Okay? Now, this one's important also. Okay? The policy. It's written. It works as it's written. It can be changed. It's taught. Number 5, it is uniformly and fairly applied. Okay? In this department, we said we're going to do it this way. We're all doing it this way. Okay? Not just 5 of us, and then 2 people can get away with it, or I can get away with it. I think I do a good job. Put Tay on the spot here again, but I think I do a good job in the finance office of like living under my own policies. I don't think I'm a person that takes a bunch of exceptions to get things done. I really try and go the other way. Like, just to give an example, I don't have a key to the building. I can't get in, so I'm just like anybody else who works here. You know, you probably have more keys than I do, right, to do your job. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of somebody else. But Nico, you work here, right, or no?
Yes, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I can't get in the building. You can't get in the building. I got to call security. And I like it that way because I want to know what you go through when you come to work. You know, can you get in the building? Can you do your job? That's why I do it that way. So uniformly and fairly applied. A little subset of that. I'm not big as a leader to take a bunch of privileges and this doesn't apply to me. I can do what I want to do. But is everybody in the department treated the same way? If not, why not? You know, do we need to change the policy because there's legitimate things that don't fit the policy that we do need to change? Okay, that's one way to go. You know, and then sixth and final thing we would say about policies is that there can be exceptions. Okay, and didn't we talked about exceptions, didn't we? Yeah, to policies, right? Emergencies. What were the other reasons why we'd make exceptions? Oh, they have bad reasons. Okay, the only good reason was emergencies, right? Okay, yeah. So and the other way, so you have an emergency, and then the other reason why you might do it is a situation might arise that the policy that was not contemplated when the policy was initially written. Like we didn't know that could happen, or we didn't think about that. Obviously, this policy does not apply to this new situation that's just hit us. So we're going to make an exception, and then we can talk about the policy as time goes on. You know. So this is about effective policies. But in my mind, it really, I know there was one question I asked that I think maybe I got an email from maybe Ellen on it, like, what the heck? It was one of those exam questions, like, what are you talking about? Like, what I was trying to get you to tell me is just the rhythm of team life, where you meet, agree, do it, and then come back, talk about it, fix it, and go out. That's what I was trying to get you to respond to, and if none of you got it, you won't lose any points. But the way we do policies, I want you to know this separately, but it fits kind of hand in glove with the way the team works. It's what teams do. We get together, we build each other up, we talk about where we're going, and then talk about how we're working together and how we can make it better. And we love doing that because that's what life is. I'm not saying what life is made of, but it's really on one level, it really is how it goes. So I'm thinking I don't need to spend a lot more time on this, but I'm just giving myself a second if I've missed something or more that I want to say about this. This will come up again when we get in a few more weeks or months. We'll get to talking about liability, but think about this question. Okay, and this will come up later on again, but it's so we have policies, and then the way we start to deal with situations is, let me forget that. What is the procedure? And then B, did we follow it? And those two questions just take away tons of subjectivity, tons of hurt feelings, tons of discipline. It's just that stuff all goes away. And 99 times out of 100, if people don't follow the procedure, it's because they forgot. It's not like they woke up and said, I don't care about that, I'm not going to do it. I mean, we talked about some of those reasons. But this is just how we deal with things, this person came in the finance office and wanted to do this. Okay, what is the procedure? What's the policy? And did we follow it? And then, we didn't have a policy for that. Well, do we need one? Or was that, once a year thing? No, it happens frequently enough. Okay, how are we going to deal with these people? We're going to deal with them this way. Okay, write it down. Are we really going to deal with them this way? Yes, we really are. We all agreed on this? Yes. And then there we go. And then a month later, it will happen again, and it's like, wait a minute, didn't we talk about this? Yeah, I think we did, but I forget. I don't know, did we? Didn't we write something? Yeah. And one person out of 5 people on the team will say, I know we wrote this down. And then we go back and find the information. This is how we said we were going to deal with it. And that's, oh, there we go. There's your answer. No one's in trouble. We forgot what we said we would do, but that's how we'll do it next time, you know. And this just makes life better. I don't think everybody has access to it, but employees, you know, people that have access to the toolbox, we really have online sort of a policy manual. Has anybody here seen that besides me? Okay, Wesley's seen it, okay. No, for the church. Yeah, you can go to the, you know, anybody can go to the college website. Some of that stuff is, you know, employee, student policies are there. But for church employees, we got a bunch of stuff up there. And I go there, I went there today. Someone asked me a question. Gee, so-and-so is thinking about cutting back their hours, but they still want to get vacation days. How's that work? To be honest with you, I don't know, but I know where to find it. Went on the website, you know, and this is the answer. You know, if you work more than 35 hours a week on a regular basis, you will get 15 personal days per year. If you drop down below 35 but above 25, you will get 7 personal days per year. If you're below 25, you get 0. Okay, there's the answer. That's our policy. Can it be changed? Of course it can. I can't change it right now, but if you've got a good case as to why this doesn't make sense and it's unfair, and you state your case and we'll talk about it, and it will get a hearing, you know, because we listen to people here. All right? So, it would be, you know what the question is going to be about policies, you know, tell me the elements of policies and the reasons behind them, you know, and that'll be just the exam question. Okay, so you want to know all that stuff. Okay, now we're going to go, so we went kind of short on that one. We've been going for a half an hour. I'm inclined to go into the next subject and then break it in the middle and then come back for like the last 45 minutes. Are you okay? Everybody all right? Okay, I'll try and come up with some jokes here to keep you guys. Andy, where were you?
Istanbul and Turkey and Budapest.
Good for you. So we went to Turkey first or second?
And Budapest, Istanbul, Budapest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're there with the whole convention in Budapest?
Huh?
You were there for the convention?
Yeah.
Then you went to a city in the Middle East, and then you went back to Budapest, and now you're here. And are you just like are you just arriving?
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you. Yeah, just got off the plane. I would never be late for class, Pastor Taggart. I just got off the plane, honest. We rushed here. Okay. Now, we're going to start talking about leadership styles. And the reason we're talking about it is because it's important for us to realize that the men that we're under in the church, they can conduct their jobs in very different ways. And I'm really talking about this, most importantly, applied to the pastor of the church. So we're going to talk about it in that context. It could apply to other people. But I want you to be aware of it. And of course, in Greater Grace World Outreach, we have tremendous respect and honor for the office of the pastor. Pastor Stevens really taught us that honor. That honor has stood us well. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm sitting in a church service and the Word of God is being preached, and the pastor is leading the church under the anointing and under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and I cannot receive that leadership and that teaching because I'm looking at a man and maybe the flesh of a man, and because of that, I discount his ministry. I don't ever want to be doing that. And I just really like these. I listened to the Tuesday, it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I'm losing track of time now, the first Tuesday evening service that kicked off the Budapest Convention, where Pastor Schaller was preaching. Pastor Schaller started it, and then Pastor Schaller preached. And I was there, and for whatever reason, it was kind of like I was in Budapest, just in my mind. I was momentarily freed from many of the things that I think about just in the course of life here. You know, family, can I pay my bills? How's my job? Just all these different things. And I was like, and it was like awesome, you know. And I was really able to hear the message like as coming from God and not coming from a man. And it was just like, God, I got to keep myself in this place so that I can benefit and go forward as a disciple, you know. So we want to be careful with this message, not with this message, we want to be careful with this topic, not in terms of some of the mechanics of it, but in terms of our heart, you know. And I think that we as parishioners, as people who are under the man of God, we could err in two ways. And these things are like jumping in and out of my mind. I hope I get this right. But the first way I could err is that I'm under my pastor, and there's a certain part of his personality that isn't really necessarily from God. It's just him, you know, like he likes the Washington Redskins or something and likes talking about it, you know. So I'm trying to give some example that doesn't have anything to do with anybody we know. And I allow that sort of like natural part of who he is to take away, to view everything he does as natural. Okay? So that would be the way I would err, number one. I'm not sure I can. I'll give it a shot. I would allow me seeing some part of his temperament, personality, activity, conversation, whatever you want to call that, some natural part of it that doesn't have so much to do with who he is in Christ, to make me view all of him as natural and something that I can take or leave. Okay? So that's the first error I can make. Now, the second error I can make is I have a guy who's amazing pastor, teacher, leader, and I have some part of his personality, temperament, conversation, activity that is natural, and I take the same esteem that I give to like his message and his church leadership, and I apply that same esteem to something that really has nothing to do with it because it's just part of him as a man. And especially if that part of him as a man is something like bothers me or chafes against me, and I start to think that I have a spiritual problem because I'm having trouble receiving this part of him that I think is like from God because I respect the guy, but it's really not. It's just like some part that I should just take or leave. Does that make sense, everybody? I think it's a little bit vague.
Perhaps it does make sense to you.
Yeah, it makes. Yeah. Okay, so are you asking the same question he is?
Give an example.
Yeah, just show an example.
Okay, you're asking me to give an example, or you can give one. Let me give another. Let me have another shot at it. Okay, and I want to hear from you, but let me have another shot at it. Okay, Pastor Taggart, I'm like a tease. I like to tease people. You know what I'm saying? That's how I relate to them. I'm not saying it's the best thing. You know, my wife, my kids, you know, we torture each other, and generally it goes pretty well. You know, I can bring that into, you know, the people I work with and the people I work with closely and rub shoulders with, because that's, to me, that's just part of intimacy with a person. You know, just being close to them is teasing them. So someday in the office, I would never do this, but maybe I make a mistake, and I got some woman who works in my office, and I tease her about maybe her hairstyle or something, which you should never do. Okay? Men, never ever. Appearance, never. It's off limits, okay? But I cross that line and I tease this person about their hairstyle, which I should not have done. God didn't lead me to do it. I was foolish to do it, but I do it. But this person in my office, because she knows she's supposed to think that Pastor Taggart is awesome and from God and all this stuff, and this thing bothers her, and she thinks she is off because I said something that bothers her, and she's thinking that she shouldn't let it bother her, but she should receive from God in that, which when it wasn't even from God in the first place. So she has, the person under the leadership has difficulty sorting out some stuff that really is not so much a part of the ministry. Is that, did we take a step forward in understanding there?
How does that relate to the pastor in that case? Like, the first one was clear that, as you hear, there's part of his personality that you cannot accept. For that reason, you do not accept the message.
Him, right. But the other part of it is there's so much of him I do accept, I apply, I think that I have to accept everything when some stuff I should just realize is just incidental and not important part of his ministry. And I think I'm off because I don't like it.
And that's something that is preached from the pulpit, or is it
Oh, no, I'm saying more something about who he is. You know, that's what I'm saying, okay? So I go, there's two errors there, and I'm just saying I want us to be aware of that, and in a sense, like you are going to be under, you know, you're either going to be pastoring a church or you're going to be under a pastor the rest of your life, you know? And you are going to be called maybe to some mission field, and you're going to get into a place and you're going to be under a guy that, you know, comes to Baltimore and is amazing. He gets in the pulpit and preaches these awesome messages. You hear great things. Hey, man, I'm called there. And you're going to get there, and you're going to find out maybe some things like, what's going on here? You know, what's this? You know, and that's why we're talking about leadership styles, to help you recognize some things, so that when you see certain things, maybe they won't bother you so much. Or maybe they should bother you, maybe they shouldn't, but maybe they won't bother you so much. And also to free you up to realize, hey, wait a minute now, I realize this is this guy's leadership style. I don't work so well under that specific leadership style. I am not suited to be in this place and under this person. And then you can make a change, and it's like you're free to do that, and you don't walk away feeling like you failed God or you've left your calling or something. Okay, so this is the way we want to be able to think about this while guarding our hearts and giving the pastor the esteem that we want him to have. Okay? So I know this is a little bit of a process, and that's why this is like a senior level course. Maybe there's some sophomores here also, but this is why this is not a freshman level course, and why I would prefer this course. Sometimes wasn't always taped, but it is, and here we go with it. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about, leadership style, and this is why we're talking about it. I've sort of painted the foundation of why we want to be discussing this and what to watch out for. So far, so good? Everybody with me? Any questions? Okay, now, here we go. The next thing that we're going to close out the evening with, and we'll break and then we'll close it out, is there's 3 different aspects that I have identified to leadership style. I'm not saying this list is exhaustive. There may be other elements that I should be including in the course. I've been developing this material from what I've seen and from my experience. Maybe you could read a book on management, or I should, and we could glean from that some more things that we should be talking about. This course is still in development, which is what makes it fun, you know. But what I have identified is that leaders can have different styles in terms of how they give definition. And again, maybe there's better ways to say this, but this is how I'm saying it right now. Number 2, in terms of how close they are to details. And number 3, what their expectations are from the team, whoops, from the team, or from church members, okay? So we're going to talk about different aspects of these three different, what I would call leadership traits, or just how leadership management styles, okay? And I'm going to say some things about this. I think this is going to be very helpful to you. I know we're coming into our last hour here, and Andy has jet lag, but maybe we're going to break right now, and then we'll come back at 8:22, and we'll get as far as we can with these three items, okay?